From where I sat in the back row, the physical roof of the church just dissolved. I'm not speaking metaphorically. In its place, I saw a swirling vortex of pure, golden light, and beings of immense power started descending right into the room. It was beautiful, terrifying, and absolutely real. But I wasn't there to worship God. I was there on a mission from Satan himself. My job was simple: curse the pastor, silence the music, and shut the entire service down. I was an expert at this. It was supposed to be just another assignment for me. You're probably asking how a man working for the devil could see something like that. And you're definitely wondering what happened when I tried to carry out my mission against that power. The truth is, what I saw that day shattered everything I thought I knew about spiritual warfare. I'm going to show you what your worship actually does in the unseen world from someone who used to be on the other side. If this is something you feel you need to hear, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming. Have you ever felt the atmosphere change during worship? Tell me about it below. That moment in that small church was the assignment that changed everything. It was the peak of my power as a Satanist, but it was also my breaking point. To understand how I got there, how a lonely kid from São Paulo ended up with the ability to see into the spirit realm and serve the darkest powers, you need the whole story. I'm going to reveal the secrets I learned, the price I paid, and the power that ultimately saved me. But before we get to the battle in that church, we have to go back. Back to the beginning. My life didn't start with grand demonic assignments. It started in a small, quiet house in São Paulo, where I was basically invisible. My parents were good people, but they were ghosts, exhausted from working multiple jobs just to keep us afloat. I remember sitting at our dinner table, the silence so heavy you could feel it. They were there, but they weren't. We were culturally Catholic, which meant we had statues in the house, but no real faith. There was this deep, spiritual emptiness, and I felt it in my bones. I just wanted someone, anyone, to actually see me. That's when an older man in our neighborhood, someone everyone respected as a spiritual leader, took notice of me. I was about 11, always watching, always quiet. One afternoon, he found me sitting alone and put his hand on my shoulder. His voice was calm and serious. "You have a sensitivity others don't," he told me. "You can see what they can't. It is a gift." It was the first time anyone had ever called me gifted. He gave me the attention I was starving for, a sense of purpose. He told me he could teach me how to develop that gift. He introduced me to the world of Afro-Brazilian occultism, not as something evil, but as a way to unlock my potential. He took me under his wing, and for the first time, I felt special. I felt powerful. He told me that the spirit world was always there, waiting for people like us to connect with it. I didn't know it then, but I was so hungry to be somebody that I was willing to open any door he pointed me to. And what was waiting on the other side of that door was about to consume my entire life. My training began immediately. At first, it was small things. He taught me how to read people, how to feel the energy in a room, and how to open myself up to whispers. I started doing small consultations for neighbors. The first time someone handed me money for telling them what a spirit wanted, my hands were shaking. It wasn't much, but it was mine. It was validation. I bought my mother a gift, and the look on her face, that was the moment I knew I would never go back to being invisible. I had a gift, I had a purpose, and now I had proof. By the time I was 18, I was far beyond simple readings. I was a professional. People from all over São Paulo would come to my small apartment, the one I paid for myself, for serious work. I remember one client, a desperate shop owner, who paid me a month's salary to place a curse on his competitor. I performed the ritual right there, in his back office. I remember the smell of burnt herbs, the cold that filled the room, the low hum I could feel in my teeth as I spoke the words. 2 weeks later, his competitor had a freak electrical fire. The power was intoxicating. but things were starting to happen that I couldn't control. My sleep was gone, replaced by vivid nightmares where grotesque figures would crawl on my ceiling, their faces contorted in silent screams. A constant pressure began to build behind my eyes, a headache that never fully went away. My friends started pulling away. One of them told me, "There's a coldness to you now, Henrique. It's like you're not really there." I ignored them. I told myself this was the price of power, the cost of being special. The entities I worked with demanded a toll, and I was willing to pay it. My reputation for getting results, no matter the cost, had attracted a different kind of attention. It was no longer just desperate neighbors or small business owners. One evening, a man in an expensive suit found me. He wasn't looking for a simple curse. He represented a group, a coven, he called it. He watched me work and said, "What you do is impressive for a child. But it's child's play. We can teach you how to command these spirits, not just ask them for favors. We can give you real power." I had reached the top of my small world, but I was ignoring the constant torment and the cold that was consuming my soul. I was about to learn what true servitude meant, and the price was far higher than I could ever imagine. That invitation from the coven wasn't an offer, it was a transaction. I traded my soul for what I thought was ultimate power, but the cost was immediate and brutal. My spiritual sight, the gift I was so proud of, became a 24/7 curse. It never turned off. I'd sit on the subway and see grotesque, leech-like demons clinging to people, whispering lies into their ears. I couldn't unsee it. My family, who once thought my abilities were intriguing, now looked at me with pure terror. I remember my mother backing away from me in her own kitchen, whispering, "There's something dark in your eyes, Henrique?" I was completely, utterly alone. My body began to break down. I was plagued by crushing migraines that felt like shards of glass grinding behind my eyes. A constant, heavy pressure settled on my chest, like a concrete block was slowly squeezing the life out of me. Doctors found nothing wrong, but the worst part was what I saw in the mirror. The man looking back wasn't me anymore. His eyes were cold, empty, a hollow shell being piloted by something else. I was a prisoner inside my own body, a puppet for the entity I served. I had all the power I ever wanted, and I had never been more powerless. Three times I tried to walk away. The first time, I just stopped all rituals for a week. The physical torment became so intense, I couldn't stand. The second time, I tried to confess to a priest, but the words wouldn't come out of my mouth. My throat just closed up. The third time was the worst. I packed a bag to leave the city, and every window in my apartment shattered at once. A voice, deep and guttural, echoed in the room, a voice that wasn't mine. "You belong to us now. There is no escape." I knew then it was true. My lowest point found me on the cold tile floor of my expensive, empty apartment in Sao Paulo, too sick to move, too tormented to sleep. I had lost everything: my family, my friends, my health, and my own will. I was nothing more than a vessel, a tool for destruction. The only thing I had left was my reputation within the coven as their most effective operative. I was a dead man walking, convinced this was all my life would ever be. But I was about to get one last assignment, a routine job that would change everything forever. The assignment came a few days later, while I was still just a ghost haunting my own apartment. The coven needed me to handle a small, noisy Pentecostal church in Campinas. They said it was having too much of an impact, and they wanted it shut down. For me, it was a simple job. Get in, curse the worship, mark the pastor, get out. I drove there feeling nothing, a hollowed-out professional on his way to another day at the office. I found the place easily. It was small, unimpressive. I felt a familiar sense of contempt as I slipped into a seat in the back row, ready to begin my work. I started my incantations under my breath, the silent words that had brought down businesses and broken families. The music started. It wasn't a performance, it was raw. A simple guitar, a slightly off-key piano, and voices that were desperate. People around me weren't just singing, they were crying out. Their hands were raised, faces streaked with tears. I tried to focus, to push my darkness into the room, but something was wrong. My curses felt weak, like throwing pebbles against a fortress wall. The air in the room was changing, becoming thick, heavy, but not with my darkness. It was something else. Suddenly, a wave of heat rolled up from the floor. It wasn't just warm, it was a physical force, like a blast furnace had opened right under my seat. The demonic words I was chanting turned to ash in my mouth. I literally choked, unable to speak them. I looked up at the stage, gasping for air, and my spiritual eyes saw it. The pastor wasn't there anymore. In his place stood a figure made of pure, blinding light. I couldn't make out a face, only an overwhelming sense of absolute authority and a love so powerful it was terrifying. His arms were open wide. I didn't hear a voice with my ears, but a thought was burned directly into my soul, clearer than any sound I had ever heard. It said, "You are fighting for the wrong side. Come home." It wasn't an accusation, it was an invitation. And in that moment, I felt a terror so complete it was holy. It wasn't fear of being hurt. It was the crushing awareness of my own filth, my own profound darkness in the presence of ultimate purity. I scrambled out of my seat, tripping over my own feet, and fled the building. I just ran, blindly, into the night. The image of that figure with open arms burned into my mind forever. I ran for what felt like miles before collapsing in an alleyway, shaking and sobbing. For the first time in years, the voices in my head were silent. There was only the echo of that one thought. Come home. After hours of sitting in the dark, I made the one call I thought I'd never make again. I called my mother. I couldn't form sentences. I just choked out, "I saw him. Mom, I saw him." There was a long silence, then her voice, trembling, "Who, Enrique? Who did you see?" That encounter was the turning point. If you've ever had a moment that changed everything for you, please like this video and share your story below. You never know who needs to hear it. After that night, everything I thought I knew about power was turned upside down. My mother connected me with a pastor who began to patiently walk me through the truth. For the first time, I could see what was happening on the other side of the fight. When a church worshipped from the heart, the spiritual atmosphere would physically change. I used to see it as a murky, heavy gray, but their voices would create literal waves of fire and sound that pushed the darkness back. The air would become brilliant, clear. I saw angels, tall, powerful warriors, descend and take positions around the congregation. A shield of golden light would form over the building, and it was absolutely impenetrable. But I also learned why our missions were sometimes so easy. In churches where the music was just a good show, a performance, nothing happened. The spiritual air stayed heavy and stagnant. I'd see demons just lounging in the pews, completely unbothered, sometimes even looking entertained by the spectacle. There was no light, no power, because the worship wasn't a real connection to God. We had specific targets, people we were assigned to keep sick, addicted, or trapped in poverty. But when that person would begin to truly worship, a personal shield of light would erupt around them. Our curses would literally hit that shield and just dissolve. It was infuriating. They became untouchable. Our primary tactic was always distraction. We couldn't fight the light head-on, so we'd inject thoughts of pride, like, "My voice sounds better than theirs," or judgment, like, "Look at what she's wearing," or simple anxiety about what to do after the service. If we could get their minds off God and onto themselves, their light would dim, making them vulnerable. But we could do nothing against unified, focused worship. It literally creates a throne for God's presence, just like it says in the Psalms. And when the king arrives in person, you don't fight. You flee. This revelation shattered my old life, but I soon learned that knowing the truth and living in it are two different things. The real battle for my soul had just begun. Knowing the truth was one thing, but the devil doesn't just let his soldiers walk away. The retaliation was immediate and violent. I'd wake up in the morning with deep, angry scratches on my back, with no memory of how they got there. In my small apartment, a coffee mug would suddenly fly off the counter and shatter against the wall. The worst was when two men from my old coven showed up at my door. They didn't shout. They just smiled and said, "It would be a shame if something happened to your mother." They were reminding me that this was a war. The physical attacks were terrifying, but the war inside my head was worse. My spiritual sight was still open, but now it was used against me. I was constantly tormented by visions of what they would do to me. Voices, whispering in my own thoughts, would tell me, "You're a fraud. God will never forgive you. Your old master is coming to collect his property." I had to learn, minute by minute, to fight back. I would literally shout scriptures into the empty room, my voice shaking, clinging to a promise I barely felt was true. I expected a fight from the darkness, but I wasn't prepared for the cold shoulder from the light. Many Christians were terrified of me. They saw my past, not my repentance. They whispered that I could be a spy, a deceiver. It was a profound loneliness. I eventually moved to a small church in Belo Horizonte where the pastor took a chance on me. For a year, my only job was stacking chairs and cleaning bathrooms. It was humbling, but it was exactly what I needed to prove my transformation was real, both to them and to myself. So, the battles were on three fronts: violent physical and spiritual attacks from the coven, a constant mental war of lies and torment, and rejection from the very people I thought would welcome me. I won by enduring, by fighting back with prayer and scripture, and by accepting humble service. There were countless times I failed, nights where the fear won and I doubted everything. But I always got back up. This intense war, this fight for my very soul, lasted for nearly 2 years before I finally felt the ground become solid beneath my feet. After those 2 years of war, the ground finally felt solid beneath my feet. My spiritual sight, the thing that had been a 24/7 curse, didn't just disappear. God redeemed it. Before, all I could see was the darkness, the grotesque demons clinging to people, the heavy spiritual smog. Now, in moments of deep worship, I can still perceive that unseen world, but I see what He is doing. I see the light pushing back the shadows. I see the warrior angels taking their positions. It's no longer a source of terror, but a confirmation of His victory. The physical torment is gone. For years, I lived with a crushing weight on my chest and migraines that felt like my skull was splitting open. Today, that pressure is gone, replaced by a peace I never knew was possible. For the first time since I was a child, I can sleep through the night without waking up in a cold sweat from nightmares. The constant barrage of voices in my head has been silenced. It's not just that the noise stopped, it's that a quiet, steady presence has taken its place, guarding my mind. My old life was about destroying things, especially families. My own was the first casualty. Rebuilding with my mother took years of patience. At first, she was still scared of me, but slowly, she began to see the change was real. Now, she calls me her miracle. I went from being a professional destroyer to a builder. My entire mission today is to use the insider knowledge I was given by the enemy to expose his tactics and to show the church just how powerful they really are, especially when they come together in worship. But I don't want you to think it's a perfect fairy tale. The scars are still there. There are days I still have to fight the memory of that old power, the temptation of control that was my idol for so long. It's a daily surrender. My family was restored, my health returned, and my mind is now at peace. But these aren't trophies I won, they are gifts of grace I didn't deserve. And everything I learned, everything I saw from the other side, boils down to one critical truth about the spiritual battle you're in. Everything I've told you, every dark secret and every painful memory, boils down to this one truth. Your worship is not the opening act for the sermon. It is not just a song to fill time. It is the main event of the spiritual battle. The enemy isn't afraid of a Christian who just goes to church. He is absolutely terrified of a Christian who understands that their praise is a weapon. It's a weapon that invites the manifest presence of God to personally step into any situation, and when he shows up, the fight is already over. If you're in a place like I was, feeling invisible, hungry for purpose, or chasing power because you feel weak, I see you. I know that hunger. I know what it's like to be willing to do anything to feel special, to be seen. You might be opening doors you shouldn't, just like I did, looking for validation in dark places. But the power you find there is a lie. It will take everything from you and leave you an empty shell, a prisoner in your own life, just like it did to me. But the power that held me captive is nothing compared to the power that set me free. The vision I saw of Jesus with his arms open wide in that church, that wasn't just for me. That invitation is for you, right here, right now, no matter what you've done or where you've been. He is not afraid of your darkness. He is not disgusted by your past. He is waiting with his arms open. Stop running from him. Run to him. His love is the only power that truly makes you free. If this story has touched you, please subscribe for more testimonies of God's power. Like this video so others can find it, and share it with someone you know who feels trapped and needs to hear there is a way out. I want to hear from you in the comments. Share your own story or leave a prayer request. I used to walk into a church to shut the worship down. Now I pray my story helps you understand why you must never stop lifting your voice, because your praise builds a throne for the King.